Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and I just want to start off by saying I'm so sorry that I didn't get this last part out for pre-release. I hope you all had a wonderful pre-release weekend. Mine was okay. I didn't have a great pool. It honestly was kind of terrible. It was like evenly spread out through all colors. No good like bombs that like pulled me into any color. And I just settled on a Golgari deck that had decent creatures and lots of removal, and I did very mediocre, so that was fun. But yeah. But today's episode is gonna be the last of it. We're wrapping up green. I have actually already recorded this video. The footage was unusable, the audio was messed up, and I couldn't do it unfortunately. So I'm back here. Yeah. So, like for all the other parts, if you want to talk about more, hear more about how I'm analyzing these cards, I will talk about it in the first video where I talk about the multicolor cards and artifacts and stuff. But for the most part, I am mostly looking at this for limited, primarily draft. And I'm also not really going to be taking time for sealed because the majority of the time that people are playing sealed is either A, at a pre-release, which has already happened, or B, if they're looking at playing competitively, and don't go for my advice, just listen to limited resources at that point. So yeah, let us just hop right into it. That's not how I do it. There we go. First up we have Arboreal Grazer, which is 1 green for an 0/3 with reach, and when it enters the battlefield, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. When you're like, I've talked about this many times before, but when you're evaluating 1-drops, there's this major question of how is it good on like the turn 1 or 2, and how good is it on turn 10? Especially for like a much slower format like this one. This is kind of a grindy, slower format from what I've experienced. Arboreal Grazer is okay on turn 1. Like it ramps you, get to ramp into 3-drop, but doesn't really actually give you card advantage. Like it's not a ramp spell that replaces itself. You're still going to own a card, and you don't really want to be spending a card that's an 0/3 with reach for that. And on turn 10, it's just atrocious, so I am not into Arboreal Grazer at all. That's not how I do things. Arlen, Voice of the Pack, is A+, because she is extremely hot, and I am extremely gay. But she is a 6-mana, 7-level planeswalker. Her static ability is each creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf enters battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter on her. That's, as a static, that's not something that people are going to go out of their way to kill. If they're going out of the way to kill Arlen, it is to take her out specifically so she stops making wolves. And it mostly only synergizes with her -2 ability. There are other cards who, there's a few other wolves in the set, but for the most part, yes, if those synergies are there, that's cool, but that static is mostly just for her. And her -2 is just make a 2/2 wolf, which, assuming they don't like bolt her in response, will be a 3/3 wolf. So if she doesn't take any damage over the course of 3 turns, and she'll make 9 power worth of wolves, and that's real solid. And if you want to be a bit more conservative about it, and like she only makes like 2 wolves, that's still 6 mana for 6 power and toughness. Yeah, I think Arlen is quite solid. She isn't amazing, like she isn't like a premier 6-drop, but she is a solid like curve topper. Yeah, no, I don't mind Arlen at all. Also, she's great because she's very hot. Next we have Arlen's Wolf, which is 2 and a green for 3/2, and it cannot be blocked with creatures with power 2 or less. It's 3 mana 3/2, which is just fine. It has evasion, which is, it's okay evasion. It'll always usually, like, It'll never trade down, which is like a good benefit and points to it, but it's just an average 3-drop. I don't mind running them, but I'm not going out of my way to run them. Awakening of the V2 Ghazi, which is 3 green for an instant, and you put 9 +1 counters on target land you control. It becomes a legendary 0/0 elemental creature with haste named V2 Ghazi. It is still a land. So it's 5 mana, but typically when you're using this, it's going to be a 6 mana spell. But because you don't want the thing to come in untapped, like, you want to be using this turn either to ambush their creature or get in for, oh, surprise, 9 damage. Although if you're just doing it in their turn and just have your mana up next turn to attack with it, that option is there. But either way, that is a 5 or 6 mana 9/9. And sure, you have to kind of like sacrifice a land to get the 9/9. But that at instant speed, it's just, and with haste, it's just such a powerhouse. And Awakening the V2 Ghazi, very good. So, yeah, that's about what I have to say about it. Yeah, not much else to say. It's a lot of raw power for a very reasonable cost. And it'll be really good. Yeah. Band Together, which is 2 and a green for an instant. Up to 2 target creatures you control each deal damage equal to the power to another target creature. I mean, it's 3 mana removal, and the fact that it is in a fight, it's just deal damage, it's instant speed, and one of the problems with like a lot of these like fight or like direct damage effects in green is that it requires you to have like a big creature to just be able to take it out. But this one lets you have 2 small creatures or 2 just like medium-sized creatures. And this just makes it one of the best green creature removal spells that we've honestly seen in Limited for quite some time. It's not quite as good as like Clear Shot in my opinion, but it's still extremely good. I don't count the Gruul one from Allegiances because it's Gruul, not green. But yeah, no, Band Together is just extremely nice, and you're happy to pick up, honestly, as many of these as you can get your hand on in a green deck. Bloom Hulk, which is 3 and a green for 4/4, and when it enters the battlefield, proliferate. It's a 4 mana 4/4, and honestly, I'm always into 4 mana 4/4s. 4 mana 4/4s is just extremely potent, and the proliferate's nice, and if you have like either the counter themes or the walker themes, it obviously gets better there. But I'm happy to run this even if I have none of those synergies, because 4 mana 4/4s seldom aren't good. Like, in terms of like, as vanilla creatures go, it is one of the best vanilla, like, it's the sweet spot for vanilla creatures. So, yes. And the fact that it does have those synergies just pushes this very nice. Also, is it just me, or that just looks like Plant GLaDOS? Like, that's Plant GLaDOS, right? Bond Flourishing, which is 1 and a green for sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You gain 3 life. I reckon this, like, it's not like a lot of these, it's not like non-land permanents, just any permanent. And while I don't think it's a high pick when you're drafting stuff, you're happy to run a few of these in your deck. Just because it is good card selection, it does gain you life. And, yeah, no, I just quite like it. Like, in Limited, especially if you're running green, you're not going to whiff. Like, sure, it sucks if you just grab a land, but sometimes that's what you want. It is a 2 mana spell, and it lets you dig real deep. And if you do need a land, and like, if you're casting this like on turn like 2 or 3, you'd be like, oh, I need to hit my 3rd land drop. If you didn't have land, at least you dug 3 deep, so it's like, it does help you there still. So I quite like Bond of Flourishing. Yeah. Centaur Nurturer, which is 3 and a green for 2/4. That enters battlefield, you gain 3 life, and you may tap it to add 1 mana of any color. I honestly, the first time I did this video, undervalued this card. I saw this perform very well this weekend, and I was like pretty medium on it, like, that's fine. And now I'm just like, you know what, actually, this is a quite serviceable 4-drop. Like, Gain 3 life is a non-insignificant amount of life, and I mean, the mana tapping ability is very nice for fixing, because fixing is quite rare in this set. And the fact that 2/4 is just a decent body, even if it doesn't pass the vanilla test. And while all the effects are medium, like overall, it comes out to just being a decent card, and I don't mind Centaur Nurturer in the slightest. Challenger Troll, which is 4 and a green for 6/5. Each creature you control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than one creature. It's a 5 mana 6/5, which I really like. It has its own, not like, evasion, but like it makes it like harder to block your creatures and affects all of them. That this is just an extremely excellent card. Because it's obviously best if you're like in a green-red, which typically has larger things. But if you're in green, you'll probably already have those large things to begin with. At the very least, itself is just a body on its own. So, yeah. But what isn't exciting is when you're like me. And this was literally the best creature in my pool. It's a good creature, but that was it. This is the closest thing to a creature bomb in my pool. My rares were like, my promo rare was Fibblethip. It was fine, but serviceable. The Elder Spell, which is solid, but nothing like insane. Especially in like skilled, I think it was very good. Just taking out like, because a lot of people were running their walkers. I had a Ral, but no spell stack to really support him. Mobilized District, the land that turns into a citizen. My only good rare was planar, like, we'll get to it. But even then, it wasn't great in that deck. Courage and Crisis. This is where Colossal Dreadmaw should have been. The first time I recorded this video, I made a whole like show of like, oh no, I forgot I was there, but I don't feel like doing that again because I already did it. But Courage and Crisis, which is 2 and green for sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and then proliferate. I'm not really into this. Like, if it was instant speed, yeah, but it's just not really what I'm looking to do. It's like, yeah, if you have a very solid proliferate deck with like lots of things with counters or lots of walkers and things like that, maybe it has a slot, but generally I just don't think this just does enough. So yeah, that's about where I am on about it. Evolution Sage, which is 2 and a green for a 3/2 with whenever a land enters battlefield under proliferate. 3 mana 3/2. I don't mind that. It's a fine body, but the better thing about that is that the fact that it is the most consistent source of proliferate in the set. Except for maybe Karn's Bastion, which is maybe a bit more, because when you have the mana you can... yeah. But Evolution Sage is just extremely potent. Just, yes, you do need to have the deck with either the counters or the planeswalkers, but once you have that, he is just such an engine. And this is probably of the cards in the set that, outside of like splashy bomb rares, is the one that like I first pick and I'm just like, yes, I want to build this deck, I want to build around this, I want to make it great, and it just really excites me. So I very much like Evolution Sage. Finale of Devastation, which is X green for sorcery. Search your library or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, and if you search your library this way, shuffle it. And if X is 10 or greater, which, remember, for all of these, if you cannot judge it by this card. If you did, you cannot justify running 12 mana cards in your deck. You just can't. But they get all your creatures get +X and haste until end of turn. Which, I mean, green is in the best situation to do that. And that does essentially mean you win the game right then and there. But without that, Finale Devastation is just fine. Like, I like the fact that it searches your library and graveyard, so it can be a reanimate when you need it. It's a little bit more expensive, like you're paying 2 more than the creature, but it is very flexible. It'll get you any bombs, it'll get you the best creature that you need. So yeah, I don't mind Finale of Devastation, but it's solidly in the middle of the finales for me, in terms of power level. Like, it's not as good as, like, the white and black, but it's not it's not as bad as, like, the red and blue, which aren't bad, but they're just much more narrow. But now, Finale Infestation is just very solid, but nothing insane. Forced Landing, which is 1 green for an instant, but target creature flying on the bottom of its owner's library. It's a sideboard card. It's your sideboard flying removal. There isn't quite enough, like, dangerous flyers that you'll be mainboarding this like you would in M19, but, yeah, no, it's a sideboard card. You'll be happy to have a couple of them in your sideboard in case you run against a heavy flyer deck, so, yeah. Giant Growth, which is 1 green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. It's a classic combat trick, but it is honestly still one of the best combat tricks. Certainly one of the best 1-mana combat tricks, where it's like, it's 1 mana, it'll almost cause you to win any combat you're in. So yeah, no, it is a combat trick, so you don't want to be running too many of them, but I'll run the first 2 Giant Growths happily. It's just, +3/+3 is a lot of power and toughness, especially for a 1-mana combat trick that you just don't see any nowadays. I mean, apart from on Giant Growth. God Eternal Ronus, who is 3 green for 5/5 of Death Touch, and when he enters the battlefield, double the power of each creature you control until end of turn, and taking Vigilance till end of turn. And has the same thing where if he dies or goes in exile, you tuck him in 3rd from the top. God Eternal Ronus, I'm not going to spend much time on him, just like all of the other ones, because he's good. He's a 5/5 for 5 with Death Touch, which is not super relevant. That is impossible to, like, really kill. Well, not impossible, but very hard to kill forever. And that his enter the battlefield effect is actually quite potent if you have other creatures. Because, I mean, it essentially kind of gives you a free big attack, and they'll usually have to chump with at least a few things and maybe trade off a few from some of your smaller stuff. But I'm not going to spend much time on him because he is just very good. So, yeah. Next up we have Jiang Yan, Wildcrafter, who is a 3-mana, 3 loyalty planeswalker. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has tap, add 1 mana of any color. And you may -1 and put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. So he's 3 mana that, like, kind of ramps you in a way. I like him if I already have Proliferate stuff, because he works really well with Proliferate. Like, be able to put, like, if you have, like, a consistent Proliferate source, and you'll, like, every time you Proliferate, you get extra counters, it puts counters on your stuff, lets you ram into other things. But if you don't have those Proliferate things, he seems very medium. And, yeah, so he needs the right deck, but in that deck he will be very good, but you do need those other pieces. So, which is something that's, like, I was in, like, a green deck, and I had none of either the counter or the Proliferate things in my pool. It was just like, oh, I'm running a core set pool, I guess. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing French vanilla creatures and removal. Yay! Next up we have Crawl Stinger, which is a 3-mana 2/2 with Death Touch. We've seen this before with, like, Daggertooth Basilisk in M19. And, you know, this attack conversation, like, it's not an exciting 3-drop, but it's perfectly serviceable. Like, it's relevant in the late game, it can trade up. Its stats aren't super impressive, but it is just a perfectly fine 3-drop. Especially since we do have, like, several cards which are also, like, not fight effects, but just direct damage effects, which, if you have those, Crawl Stingers go up a bit, just because normally the stat combination, which is like, okay, you're usually bone splintering them because they're just small, but it just turns those into just straight kill spells. So, but otherwise, it's not an exciting 3-drop, but it's perfectly fine. Crunch Wrangler, which is 2/1 and a green for 2/1 with Trample. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on Wrangler. It seems perfectly fine. Like, it's... Even if you have, like, only a few things with power 4 or greater, like, it'll grow. Like, even if it grows once, you've already gotten a 3/2 trample for 2. Which, sure, it won't grow for, like, its scales of the game, even if it doesn't grow for a few turns after it comes down. Then it will synergize with proliferate effects and things like that. And, like, it's not a super exciting 2-drop, but I think it's a perfectly serviceable 2-drop for the slot. Mowu, Loyal Companion, which is 3 and a green for a 3/3 of Trample and Vigilance. And if one or more +1/+1 counters be put on Mowu, Loyal Companion, that many +1/+1 counters +1 are put on instead. Mowu! Okay, if you don't have a strong +1/+1 counter synergy in your deck, Mowu is a 3/3 with Trample and Vigilance for 4, which is not great. I do want to have at least some +1/+1 counter synergies, and even if you only have a little bit, Mowu becomes quite good, because if you have that +1/+1 counter proliferate deck, Mowu can grow out of control extremely quickly. But you need that deck, so he is kind of a build around in that sense, so yeah, that's essentially what I have to say. New Horizons, which is 2 and a green for Enchantland. When it enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and the land take a tap for 2 mana of any one color. New Horizons I very much like in this set. Like I said, it's slower, so your curves are a bit higher. It ramps you to those. It fixes you. It's one of the few and one of the best sources of fixing the set. And it synergizes with +1/+1 counter synergies. And if you don't have those synergies, it still affects the board state when it comes down, assuming you have a creature. So, New Horizons I'm actually very happy with, and I'd run the first 2 in my deck, and more, even if I'm not splashing. And if I have strong +1/+1 counter synergies, maybe I might go up to 3, I'm not sure, but I quite like New Horizons quite a bit. Nessa, who shakes the world, who is 3 green for a 5 ability planeswalker. And whenever you tap him forest for mana, add additional green mana. I mean, you're already at 5 mana. Like, she'll ramp you a little bit, but realistically, you're not actually gaining that much more mana from her. Like, your curve is not topping out more than 6, maybe 7. And sure, she'll help you dump the rest of your hand, but that ability's okay. Her +1 is +3 +1/+1 counters up to 1 target non-creature land you control. Notably, non-creatures. You can't just keep loading up on the same land to make just like a death land. And it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste that is still a land. So, notably it's up to, so if you don't want to expose your lands to removal or a board wipe and things like that, you don't have to if you want to keep plussing Nissa. It's nice that it gets around that weakness in those corner cases. One of the reasons I don't like Tamio was just because her +1 required you to mill yourself, which is not what you want to be doing in limited most of the time. Nissa's -8 is you get an emblem with lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of forest cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Okay, so that emblem mostly is referring to her +1 ability, so typically the idea is like, oh, you'll plus her for a few turns and you get a bunch of indestructible 3/3s and things like that, and that's fine. And if you get there, sure, but you really cannot judge a planeswalker by its ultimate. Granted, Nissa is hard to kill. She comes with high loyalty, she makes blockers, so getting that ultimate isn't impossible, but you shouldn't evaluate her on that. And Nissa, do you want to be using her, converting your lands into just guys? And that's decent. I do want some proliferate synergies to both get to that ultimate faster and grow those creatures, because 3/3s aren't super impactful, but if you can grow them, it becomes much better. So I like Nissa if you have those proliferate synergies. I guess Nessa static does let you recover if like you get some of your forests killed. But yeah, I don't think Nessa is insane, but she's solid. Nessa's Triumph, which is green for sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic forest cards. If you control Anissa Planeswalker, instead lurch for up to 3 land cards, and fill those cards, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your library. You cannot rely on having Anissa because it's a rare in the set. And without Anissa, green for search your library for up to 2 forest cards. No thank you. Not at all. Like, typically the best things of these effects are either 1 mana, and they can help fix your mana. This doesn't help fix your mana. It doesn't even help you, like, because it only gets forests. You're already at double green, so it's not like you need more green mana. So I think Nessa's Triumph is downright unplayable. Paradise Druid, which is 1 green for a 2/1 that is hexproof as long as it's untapped, and it taps for any color of mana. I think this is perfectly fine mana dork. Like, it's a 2 mana, it's a piker, but the hexproof isn't super relevant. Like, that's mostly more of a constructed thing where people are trying to kill your mana dorks and stuff like that. But I mean, ramp is good. It has fixing. Like I said, fixing is very rare in the set, and I think it's just a quite solid 2-drop. So, not much to say. It's a dork. I'm usually happy with most 1 and 2 mana dorks, and honestly, in a green deck, that's kind of what you want your 2-drop to be. You just want to be rushing out your bigger stuff that impacts the board. Because green is like a mid-range color, or up to like almost not quite like up to control, and it isn't really looking to just turn things sideways and like put out small guys, and you just want to get up to those larger points, and mana dorks like her help you get there. Plain Wide Celebration. This is the best card in my deck at the pre-release, and I had no proliferate synergies. It was essentially a regrowth into 2 Citizen Creator. But it's a 5 green for sorcery. Choose 4. You may choose the same mode more than once. Create a 2/2 Citizen token that's all colors. Return target permanent card from a graveyard to your hand. Proliferate and gain 4 life. This is just a very good card. It is best in a deck that has those proliferate synergies, just because proliferating 4 times can, if you have, like, depending on your board state, can just outright win you the game. But, or at least secure the game to be so far ahead. But like, even if you're just making 8 power for 7 across 4 creatures, that's not the worst. Or like 6 power and regrowthing something, and normally won't take the life option, but it just has something for every deck. And while the proliferate deck does use it more effectively, it's just a very solid card and a great hop in to just refill your hand, refill your board if you need to, or if you have those like planeswalkers out or things with counters, just increase the potency of your board as it is. So Plain Wide Celebration is extremely good. Pollen Bright Druid, which is 1 and a green for a 1/1 with choose 1, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or proliferate. I mean, you can put it on itself, so at worst, it's a 2 mana 2/2. At best, it's just a very solid, like, late game, proliferate all your stuff, and that's really what I really want to be with my 2-drops. Like, this is a 2-drop I don't mind drawing turn 10, and that's where you want to be. And it's not great on turn 2. I'm not really looking to play bears. Like, I mean, sometimes it's useful to just have bodies to, like, swing your opponent's walkers and stuff. But, Pollen Bright Druid, I think, is just very solid, and one of the better, like, common 2-drops of the set. Just because it just synergizes so well with, like, what green is looking to do, which is this +1/+1 counter proliferate theme, and it does both of those things. Primordial Worm, which is 4 green for a 7/6. Shaman Colossal Dreadmaw. I'm not super high on Primordial Worm. just because the lack of evasion just kind of does point, even though it's above the vanilla test, is a point against it. And yeah, it's fine if you need a top end, but I'm not going out of way to play it. I'm looking for other things to top end, but sometimes you just need a big thing at the top of your curve, and it's fine, I guess. Return to Nature, which is 1 and a green for an instant, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. This is just a sideboard card. It's a naturalize with the added effect of mostly probably exiling in response to a god trigger if you need to bring it in from the sideboard. But at the end of the day, it is just a sideboard naturalize. So, yeah. Snare Spinner, which is 1 and a green for a 1/3 with reach. And when it blocks creature flying, Snare Spinner gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It's not particularly flashy, but I'd run like the first one, maybe 2 if I needed 2 drops, and sideboard in any others I had if I knew my opponent had flyers, because it is very good against flyers, and otherwise it's just a fine body, especially if you are in the more of the Super Friends deck, and it is just a fine body to protect your walkers. Yeah, so I don't mind it. It's not exciting, but it's not bad. Steady Aim, which is 1 and a green for an instant. Untap target creature, it gets +1/+4 and gains reach until end of turn. I don't like this at all. Like, for my 2-mana combat tricks, I want to have them change losses into wins, which is what Giant Growth does, and that's 1 mana. Steady Aim only really changes trades into wins. It doesn't really help you, like it can help ambush things and things like that, but it does not do enough for a 2-mana combat trick that I want to run it, so I'm very low on Steady Aim. And that's about where I come down on it. Storm the Citadel, which is 4 and a green for sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +2/+2 in game. When this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, destroy target artifact or enchantment a defending player controls. I don't want to be running like Naturalized Effects main board, and I don't want to be running this as a Anthem, and I also don't want to be paying 5 mana for a situational Naturalize for when I want to get rid of something. I just think Storm the Citadel is almost unplayable. So, yeah, no thank you, Storm the Citadel. Thundering Ceratok, which is 4 and a green for 4/5 trample. In Winter's Battlefield, other creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. I mean, it slightly fails the vanilla test, but I think it's just a perfectly 5/5 drop. Especially since if you have the cards that care about 4-mana, like 4-power creatures, it is there. And otherwise, it's a solid body. Like I've said in past videos, like, once you get past like the 4/4 mark, failing the vanilla test isn't the end of the world. And it does have evasion, and sometimes giving all your other stuff trample is relevant. When you just need to push in like a few damage to like kill a planeswalker or something else. So I don't mind it. I mean, it is a 5-drop and you don't want to make your curve too high, and I'm not going out of my way for this card, but I'm happy running them. Vivien, Champion of the Wilds, which is 2 and a green for a 4 loyalty planeswalker, which pluses the turn tree comes down percent, so she's could be a 5 loyalty 3-mana planeswalker, which is insane. But you may cast creature cards as though they had flash as her static. That's very much a problem, because attacking Vivien becomes very risky, because you could have any number of things ready to ambush her. If they have their own walkers, they can't count on attacking and being, because you can always like have something flash end of turn and it changes up like, oh, I don't have enough blockers now. Her +1 is until end of turn, your next turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. I mean, her +1, you're mostly using that just to increase her loyalty, and you get like a token benefit. Like, the vigilance and reach isn't the best, most useful thing, but it's not terrible. And her -2 is look at the top 3 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and put the rest on your library in any order. For as long as it remains exile, you may look at the card and cast it if it is a creature card. They mostly do this to get around the fact that, like, if you put it in your hand, you would have to reveal it, and to save the, like, I flash it in, to remain that mystery. It's a cool workaround. Notably, Vivien, it is not tied to Vivien being on the field, so it is as long as it is exiled for the rest of the game. Vivien has card advantage, and a very potent static. She's cheap, she's hard to kill just because of the amount of loyalty she comes down on, and all those combined make me extremely like Vivien. Like, she is by no means like a bomb, like, oh, she comes down and you win the game, but she just puts you in such a great advantage, and she's so obnoxious to deal with. I played with her, well, not with her, but against her quite a few times, and I am glad I had a lot of Spark Harvests, because I did not have the board state ever when she came down to be able to take her out. Vivians Art Bow, which is 1 green for a legendary artifact. X, you may pay X and tap it to discard a card. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put a creature card for mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. Vivian's Art Bow is extremely good. It's cheap, and I mean, if you put it down turn 2, it's like you don't mind like spinning off turn 2 for something you won't use till late game, because it's only 2 mana. It's not that bad. But essentially what it means is that, like, by the mid and late game, you'll never have a dead draw. Oh, you draw a land? Okay, I spend 6 mana. Look at the top 6 cards, cast a creature. Essentially every draw for the rest of the game is going to be a creature, or if you happen to draw like a relevant instant sorcery, it's that. But yeah, no, Vivian's Art Bow is extremely good, and just the amount of advantage you grind out, like, it takes you out of, like, you're not playing the top deck game by like the mid-late game if you have just been exchanging creatures and removal, because every draw will be a creature if you need it to, unless you get extremely unlucky. Vivians Grizzly, which is 2 and a green for 2/3, that you may pay 3 and a green and look at the top card of your library. If it is a creature or planeswalker card, you may reveal it, put it in your hand, and if you don't put it in your hand, put it at the bottom of your library. It's a 2 mana 2/3 and a mana sink, but the mana sink is kind of expensive. Like, the ideal play is you want to spend that mana and cast the creature that turn. Unless it's like a 2-drop or 3-drop, you're not going to be able to. But it's not amazing, but it's perfectly fine. It just, the cost does kind of make it prohibitively, kind of like, doesn't make it like an amazing card. So yeah, that's about where I come down on it. And the last card in the set, we have Wardscale Crocodile, which is 4 and a green for a 5/3 with hexproof. Now, it on its own, hexproof is mostly great on like big creatures that like they can't deal with creatures very easily. But a 5/3 is actually kind of easy to deal with creatures. You just need a 3-power creature and you trade with it and you're good. Which makes me like, if you don't have anything that synergizes with it, Wardscale Crocodile, honestly not great. If you do, however, have a strong +1/+1 counter theme, I think that makes Wardscale Crocodile more playable, because it gives you a good place to just start dumping counters on and proliferate, turn into a big threat that they can't interact with. I don't think that makes the card like amazing, but it changes it from the like 23rd card in your deck to, yeah, I'll play it. It's like, sure, it's like my like in the teens, but yeah, no, yeah, that's about where I come down on it. And with that, we are done for the second time, because I've recorded this episode, my set review for War of the Spark. Once again, I am so sorry for like not getting this out before pre-release. It's just between being like sick at the beginning of last week and files getting corrupted and things like that, it just didn't end up being possible to get it out on time. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, no, I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know if you disagree. Like, I want to get better at this, especially going to the draft weekend next weekend, and hope everyone had a great pre-release. And yeah, well, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and sleep well. And as always, may our story smile upon you.